let's talk about the general thoughts around VODs and recordings and what I mean, I'm curious to hear from you to like where you think the real benefits are in this.
Looking at Owncast holistically of what it is now, what it's used for, the people that use it, and then looking at recordings and say, do these people want recordings? Or what they're using Owncast for, does that jive with them utilizing recordings? And oftentimes I come up with no, probably not. There are exceptions, and there's certainly nuance. Look at Aaron Parecki. Anytime he runs like a demo day event or developer day event for Okta, that's probably a great use case for recording. So when the event ends, then if you're late, you just drop by and you press play. I know Yannick is involved with some government events, and they might fall into that where you want to go watch a replay of it later. But I wouldn't even put Kyle in that category.
The format it's just different, and I don't think it lends itself as well to to like a video on demand, like replay the stream. So like Yannick is saying, like he'd love to see Kyle perform, and
yeah,
he's
and
asleep
I
when
think
Kyle is performing. So
yeah, and I think that's why like narrowing the topic to maybe clips initially makes more sense, because I might not be interested in watching a 2-hour replay of whatever happened on Kyle's stream last week, but maybe a couple minutes of like some parts of it.
Sitting through a 2-hour stream or however long the stream is, where a lot of that is like that live interaction with the chat, and it's like that's just going to be completely lost on you if you go back and watch that replay. But you want to see his performance. That's what you want to replay. So really narrowing in on that, I think, is crucial. And I agree with you to kind of foreshadow with where we're going. I think that clips is probably a good start, as opposed to like whole stream recordings. Owncast does encoding as well to give different variable or different qualities, right? So you might have low quality being delivered here, medium quality being delivered there, and high quality being delivered here, or whatever. And this part is actually deceptively a big part of this recording, right?
In this playlist are small segments of video, and they're played sequentially. Kind of this rolling window of video. But each one of these segments is a unique file that lives on the file system. And we know when these files get generated. So if we wanted to say, hey, start a clip now, we can say, okay, a clip starts here, and then clip ends here. Store a record in a database somewhere that says this particular clip consists of these segments. And then when someone says, I want to play this clip, then we generate an on-the-fly playlist that is just this instead of all of that.
Right.
We can still have like all of these segments referenced in the database. So we can say, hey, give me the segments between 3 and 3:02 p.m. And then we can build a playlist out of whatever those segments are, hand it off to the client, and then they just play it as a HLS stream with adaptive bitrate and all the benefits that Owncast already gives you.
What is the downside of, say, like right now, like why'd you make the decision to clean this up as you go, as opposed to, say, letting that just fill up with the whole playlist and then cleaning up at the end? Yeah, because I'm thinking, okay, well, if I do a stream for 2 hours, I don't exactly know what the size on disk that would be, but I'm thinking that's not maybe not that bad.
Well, I mean, even right now, there is no reason to have more than X number of files on disk because there is no way for you to get to them. So they literally do nothing but take up drive space.
Gotcha. Okay.
So with these changes, however, those files all of a sudden become useful. They may be referenced again in the future.
So these HLS playlist files, do each of them contain all of the different qualities?
No. So there's what's called the master playlist, which all it does is point to the two different, or the number of qualities you have. And then each quality has, it's called a media playlist, actually has the list of the playable segments in there.
Okay.
So the master playlist says things like variant 0 should be if you have this kind of bandwidth, variant 1 if you have this kind of bandwidth, and then whatever your player is says, oh, it seems like my bandwidth is doing this, I will pick this one and then use it.
Right.
And then it can switch between those two. So whatever's in the master playlist are references to whatever is actually live.
So when you say that you're doing this cleanup here for these, really this is also happening for, let's say I have 3 variants, right? 3 qualities, low, medium, and high. You actually have 3 of these that you're maintaining.
Because of how this works, we would not just have to, but we would want to keep these segments for all different qualities and variants around because of the adaptive bitrate functionality. Like, if somebody is on low quality and have a hard time watching live, well, they're going to have a hard time watching the recording as well. So we want to give those same benefits to them. So every time I've heard people talk about clips or recordings, they generally talk about it in that where it's like, well, why don't we just take all the segments and we just slam them together and we create like a big MP4 file and then we let people download it, which is what I call like archival, right? It's like if you want one file that represents what that stream was and you want to put it on a disk somewhere, that might be a decent way of going about it. But that's not really what we're trying to do here. What we're trying to do are give viewers another way to watch the stream, which has its own requirements and its own features. It's not as nice of an experience where you can just press play and it will just start playing like our live stream does. And that's the same experience I think we want for any kind of replay.
So I'm going to clear the board and look at this in a kind of a different way. Denote this stream as this. So let's say that we are going to just keep all of the playlist files, instead of cleaning up as we go. That this is a live stream, it's running, so we're at this segment. I'll denote it red, the current live stream at. So we were looking at a snapshot in time, with the last segment being the live one. Divvy up this into some broad segments here. And let's say during this time, all right, we hit clip here. There's some determined clip lengths. If we want clips to be 30 seconds and each segment length is, let's say, 2 seconds, then simple math, 15 segments is a 30-second clip, right?
Yeah, so then what we would do, like the front end then knows like what time you pressed clip. So that would be, I guess that would be the clip end, right? When you pressed it, and then, clip begin, and those would be two timestamps. And then it would send those 2 timestamps to an API and then ask the database, give me all the segments between, clip begin and clip end. It's an E. And then out of that, we can then build this, clip playlist. And then this would actually get stored then as like a virtual playlist in the database somewhere saying, clip 1, 2, 3 consists of these segments. And then when a cleanup job takes place sometime in the future, it consults the database.
If we do option 1 clips only, then we really can continue to clean up. If we're doing clips only, you can't go back in time to create a clip. You clip on the fly, right? So if your clips are can only be 30 seconds, then you don't need to, then you keep 30 seconds worth, and that's whatever, your queue, like you mentioned, just increases to that size. VOD plus clips, and this is where you retain everything. For the purpose of example, let's say that it's a puppy cam. I remember there was a bee cam before. I don't know, Sliders has a beach cam. I still want to go down there sometime, check it out. Most of the time on these streams that go for days, there's not a lot going on. But then there's a moment. What if I could have clipped that like wasp and bee fight? Or what if I go down to Sliders and I wave at the camera and put up a big Owncast flag and wave it on the beach, and then somebody can clip that, like section of time.
Geek Gone Crazy said, doesn't that mean we have to keep track of every segment? And the answer is yes. We would need a table of segments and know what time they were generated. So then when we ask, give me all the segments between time A and time B, we just simply query the database for a list of those segments, and then we can recreate a playlist out of them. And additional metadata is required as well. Like we can't just know the file name of these segments. We also have to know the duration of them. Mm-hmm. We have to know the bandwidth that they were generated with. So then when we go back and recreate the playlist, we know how to do that. And what I see us doing is creating a new table of streams, and each stream in the table will have the metadata along with it. So it was like, this stream went from time A to time B. It had these 3 video qualities, and each segment is 3 seconds long. And then using that information, we can kind of rebuild the past. But it won't be storage intensive, because as we delete files from the disk, we would also delete them from the database, or, delete them from the database, because once the file no longer exists and we don't need them and they're not referenced anywhere, we can remove their references in the database as well. Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of things we need to make this work.
Which of these two would you, if you were to implement one today, which option would you go with?
Yeah, definitely option A. And, if only out of sensitivity for streamers, I see the common trait that people get really excited real fast and real disappointed real fast, and then they stop using Owncast. So it's like, yeah, Owncast is cool, let me turn on all the features, and then a half hour later, it's just like, oh my God, look at all this disk, Owncast sucks, and then it's over. Like the whole experience, beginning to end, ended in failure in 30 minutes because they just flipped all the switches and they turned on all the things, and it's like, okay,
lowest latency, highest quality.
Yeah, now there's 4 qualities all being written to disk indefinitely, and it's just like, okay, I think people will do that. Yeah. I think, and then they would get frustrated, and they're not going to read the documentation, and they're not going to ask for help. And when we have a pop-up that says, are you sure you want to do this? It's going to use a lot of disk space. They're just like, yeah, whatever, I got disk space. and then it all falls apart. So I don't know. I guess I'm really sensitive to that. Like, let's not give them enough rope to hang themselves with. So let's give them less than that.
To drive that home, can we do some napkin math on what these kind of sizes are? And for simplicity, let's use some round numbers. 60-minute stream, 3 qualities, like a high, medium, low. Because again, wanting to put these numbers out there for the people that are the same people that are going to complain about their discs getting filled up are the same people who also want everything to be super HD or whatever. So let's say 6,000 kbps, and 4,000, and 2,000. If I can trust this to be right, I think that sounds right. Right, 42,000 megabits is about 5.1 gigabytes. And yes, Yannick, if you could only clip the last 5 minutes, so this is that option 1 that we were talking about, it would drop much of this storage headache. So this argument down here that I have in the orange, this is, for the numbers for people who want, the full VODs, have like your whole stream played back. You're looking at, I think 4-hour gaming streams. I think that's a pretty average number, 20 gigs per pop at 3 qualities.
Yeah. And I just looked it up. We make the argument that it's like, oh, you could probably get running on a $5, VPS with Owncast, which is absolutely true. And I just looked it up. You get 25 gigs of space.
Yeah. So I think option 1 would still keep us in that bucket. I'm using a $5 VPS right now for my private Owncast server that we've been sharing our gaming streams on. It works great. Actually surprised. I hadn't tried it on a $5 VPS, running Owncast on it, and I'm really surprised at how good it looks and runs on a $5 VPS. VODs will immediately crush that. Whereas clips, 5 to 10 clips, let's say they're 30 seconds each.
So that brings up something I think worthwhile just thinking about is who's allowed to make a clip. If anyone's allowed to make a clip, they could just spam the clip button and then it's just a shortcut to filling up the streamer's hard drive. What are the rules around that? Do you have to be a moderator to make clips? That seems, overly limiting. But if you can just press that button as much as you want, you could literally just crash their server.
Let's say in the most extreme case, you've got a bunch of trolls that can't come in and are silently clipping every 5 seconds, right? Which you do a 4-hour stream. That makes the worst that you're looking at is you've got 20 gigs in that moment until you go and curate and clean that up. And having a good system, maybe you can filter by, okay, who is the user or the viewer that that did these clips. And if you see, it's like, Trollman42 is, clipped every 5 seconds, well, just batch delete everything clipped by Trollman42, allows the users to empower themselves by doing the clips for you, but ultimately you have the decision as the admin, as the streamer, to decide what's going up on your page and what's going to stay and take up space on your system.
Maybe there's a timeout, like if the streamer doesn't go and approve within 48 hours or whatever, they just go away.
Yeah, I think that would be great too. We didn't really go into interface for this session, which I think is good given the time. But just at a high level, for the sake of this recording, I want to mention that with this latest version, you can see that there's a new tab now with the followers section. So basically these clips, or if we do VODs, and add the schedules, those would become new tabs in the interface for on the Owncast page. Well, is there anything else that you've got before we close it out?
I don't believe so.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time today, Gabe, to hang out with me and have this discussion. I really enjoyed this. It's a nice kind of easy way for us to be productive and have an open discussion.
Yeah, thanks for getting us together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to wrap it for today. And thanks everybody for coming out, and we'll see you in the next one.